town of Enfield was North London. The kid I was a very outgoing child, very energetic. I loved swimming and I loved sports.
I was sort of helpful towards my younger brothers and sisters. It was just like a normal family life, really.
We had no knowledge of the history of the house before the happenings and the events started.
This racket started to occur in the back bedroom and some disturbance. And my mum came into the room and she said, "Johnny and Janet, pack it up and sleep. We've got to get up in the morning." And the chest of drawers near the wall and the door had slid into sort of the doorway.
There was like incidents that happened to me, like the curtain which wrapped itself around my neck, which was quite life-threatening for me. And it brought it home to me that this could kill you.
And we was all in a terrible state, very scared and tired of it. And it got worse as the time went on. We got more exhausted with it.
It's what happens in the supernatural demonic world. In order to infiltrate someone's life, they don't just, oh, I now have you possessed. They have to weaken you by creating turmoil, noises in the night, things that go bump. They start to elevate fear and they begin to feed on that fear.
For the family, when weird things started to happen, they actually did the right thing and they called the cops. And that's how the police were involved. They came to the house, they investigated, they checked around, and sure enough, all the weird stuff that the family was saying were happening in the home actually happened to the police officers.
This chair in the corner sort of shot forward about 1 metre in front of them on its own. And she sort of went like that, the policewoman, and she sort of looked in disbelief and was looking to see something was attached to it and one of us might be playing a joke on her, and maybe that's the sort of look she gave.
When you read their interviews, it's like they could not get out of there fast enough.
My neighbour called the newspaper. We didn't know what else to do, I suppose, like in desperation for some sort of help.
The chap on the news desk, being a bit sceptical, obviously didn't believe her at all.
The newspaper thought my neighbour was drunk. They don't come across this every day, do they?
When she mentioned the police had seen this, they had to believe them then. You wouldn't ignore the fact that if the police had witnessed something, that was good enough for us. I was in my early 20s. I was a photographer on the Daily Mirror, covering anything, everything. News, sport, fashion, you name it, I shot it. Janet was brought in, and as she came into the room, suddenly things just took off. Wherever Janet was, it just seemed to happen. Kids are kids, you know, they'll do funny little things for attention, but not the things that we were seeing, we were witnessing there. They couldn't have done those things. They weren't even in the same room at the time. So, no, I quite believe what I was watching was genuine. You'd have chairs tip up, beds turn over, drawers would fly out in a room there was no one in.
Oh my God, the levitation of those girls. They would levitate.
I remember being pulled from my bed. I felt like a cold hand feeling and pushed up into the air. It was like a force, and I was screaming.
Then they'd levitate, crisscross in the air.
The shot of Janet levitating was done with a cable running down to where I was, down in the main sort of living room. She was up in the bedroom. We had a camera set up in the corner, motor driven, with stroboscopic flash. I wasn't in the room at the time. I didn't see this until the following day when we process films and have a look. So that came as a real surprise to everyone, that we knew that she was falling out of bed. We could hear the bang on the floor. We could hear her scream. We knew what was going on. We only had Janet's word for it. But then the following day we'd look at the pictures. That would prove it.
It became, over the months, a bit of everyday life, which was quite bad. But before that, I certainly thought that ghosts were ghost stories and they were all fictitious.
We realised that we had to get other people involved, i.e. the Society for Psychical Research, who look into these things. And that's when people like Maurice Grosse were involved, and they were the, quotes, professionals. As far as Maurice is concerned, I understood that he had a connection with the case. He'd gone along there believing that it was his recently deceased daughter, who was also called Janet, who was trying to contact him from beyond the grave, sort of thing. And I'm sorry, I was all lost on me.
Janet, are you all right?
This voice channeled towards Janet's direction, and we looked at her face, but her mouth wasn't moving.
Ed, no. Hold your, let me unfed. No, give me. No, I don't want to. Yeah, I'll do it. Hey, don't hold a lot.
I think people thought at first that I was doing it deliberately. So tests were done.
Mr. Grosse filled her mouth up with water when we all was watching, and the voice was still talking. And Mr. Grosse asked him, "Where are you from?"
I come from the grave.
We are in the actual graveyard where Bill Wilkins is actually buried.
Mum, she's watching over us.
The expression on my mum's face is just how she used to look at me.
I felt sorry for the kids because everyone had to be there to see it, from Cambridge professors to TV companies. There was even one, there was a ventriloquist, was invited along to the house to see if Janet was making sounds herself and, this sort of stuff.
There were so many witnesses and so many people had seen things.
With the media there, reporters, investigators. There was no privacy anymore. Our lives weren't their own.
My name's Kent Allen. We're with the television news program Wide Angle. I was hoping to have a word with you about the disturbance.
This family became minor celebrities at the time, and this wasn't just a family off by themselves, off in the woods with nobody around. This was a council house in the middle of London. It is the house that you would never think that was haunted, and inside were these people living this nightmare.
There was a buzz that went around that Ed and Lorraine were coming over from the States to witness, what was happening in the house. I remember that everyone thought, wow, this is fantastic. This is really interesting that someone's going to, really bothered to do so much, to come so far.
I've done research all over the world. I never charged for anything I did. What happened wasn't good. I needed to help them.
When Ed and Lorraine come to the house, to me it felt like some sort of comfort had arrived for the first time.
Ed and Lorraine exemplify, especially in the 70s, your neighborhoods, how people weren't so afraid to help each other. You just did it because it was the right thing to do.
Lorraine has cited this particular case as being one of the most terrifying of her career.
What's your name? I never thought anything like that would happen to me.
She said, there's definitely some spirit here. And she said, I feel it's not always good. And she said, I wouldn't say it was very evil, but she said, I'm very worried about it.
Lorraine has always said to me, she goes, I know that this gig is ordained. It was meant to be, and like it or not, I gird up. And despite the fear and despite the weariness, there was never any doubt for her.
You can see it's the house, there's no doubt about it.
We had Margaret and Janet come back and visit us while we were shooting.
This is my mother's bedroom. She always had a chair in the corner here, but it's very much like her room was.
Oh, wow.
This is a
recreation of the room,
My sister
which
slept on
it really brings back memories.
It was the first time they had seen Lorraine, who was on set the same day, in 38 years.
This is Margaret and Janet.
Oh my God! Oh my goodness!
Oh, lovely to see you. We've seen you in the films as well. In the other films, I watched you.
You were kids.
I know. We never forgot.
Thank you.
It was an extremely emotional reunion for all of them because they remember Lorraine and Ed so fondly and how they had truly tried to help the Hodgson family, not just with the supernatural elements, but just help them as a family.
Out of their repertoire of cases that they've investigated of their lifetime, this is one of their most interesting ones. Because of the nature of it, the Hodgson family have their fair shares of fans and skeptics.
Our principal characters here are all children, and children can be very ingenious pranksters.
Anita Gregory, I've always despised her and resented her because she said it was a complete fake.
My girl didn't make this up. What? No. But I've seen things.
She was caught red-handed faking an event. Obviously, this family, if it was a hoax or not, was in great distress, okay? I think that we can agree on. And whatever the reason, like, I can totally respect that and be like, I'm so sorry that for whatever reason you felt this way and this kind of stuff was happening.
No one could fake something like that. They'd have to be a very good 11-year-old actor.
This is my house. No, it's not.
And there is that question of did something really happen or not. There are a lot of believers that really believe something did happen, and there's some people that feel that the girls were putting something on. But there is enough evidence that's irrefutable that makes us feel like something was really strongly going on there.
Don't you see it? See what?
I don't think I'll ever be able to put a closure on it because the memories will always be there. It will never go. It's had such a big impact on my childhood.
At the end of the day, it didn't just taper off. It burns itself out. You know, it gets to the point where things weren't happening. So just ended up as a complete mystery as it started.
I'm very grateful for giving us the chance to tell our true story.